2023. I'm Dr. Carrie Fowler, the Special Envoy for Global Food Security at the United States Department of State in Washington. Many people know me from my work to conserve the enormous and breathtaking diversity of our agricultural crops. This diversity is used in breeding new crop varieties that are adapted to extreme weather and are more productive and more nutritious. Of course, it's also important to promote investment in healthy soils to boost food production. Now, I work to enhance food security around the world. My love for farming and science led me to where I am today. Now, I'd like to invite you on a journey. But first, I need a bit of a change. Let's discover Farmcraft. Farmcraft is a free Minecraft-based game for 8 to 18-year-old students around the world who want to learn how to feed the future when we will soon have to feed an additional 2 billion people while our crop production will face the threat of climate change. In Farmcraft, you will have a chance to feed a community in a specific biome, and along the way, you and your team will have to make many decisions. Pick a specific crop, decide where to farm, prepare the soil, protect your crop against pests, and of course, avoid climate disasters. Once you will have your crop harvested, you'll have to decide how to transport it to get it to the market. You will compete virtually against teams around the world, and in the process, you'll learn and use the most innovative and cost-effective scientific methods to grow and to sell food. Well, the sun is setting, so it's time for me to get back. The U.S. Department of State is proud to support Farmcraft 2023 with our embassies and American spaces worldwide, working with our implementing partner, the North American Scholastic Esports Federation, or NASEF. Thanks for spending time with me, learning the basics of Farmcraft. I hope you will join a Farmcraft team and be part of our global effort in feeding the future.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Farmcraft 2023. We have a great live stream lined up for you today. You can see all kinds of guests scattered around. We have people representing several different time zones today, which is fun. Although we all are from the United States today. So welcome to everyone. My name is Claire LeBeau. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for NASEF, and we'll do a quick round robin of introductions. How about Professor Eric over there?
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Eric Leitner, go by River. I'm the education content producer for Clever Like Studios and been part of the Farmcraft team for 3 years, and always excited to have guests on, start asking questions, and figure out what our catchphrase, I guess, is going to be each season. So maybe we'll learn some of those today.
We think we might have found one.
I think so.
All right. Clever Like.
All right, cool. I'll go next. Clever Like. You know, I took my passion for computers when I was a kid to a career, and now I'm kind of circling back to that and tapping into the fun that I had as a kid, learning how to do this stuff, and now creating experiences like using video games to teach. And you know, we let you play the video games, but we sneak in the vegetables. So everything we do has a little learning component.
And in Farmcraft, we literally sneak in vegetables.
Literally, that's why I'm wearing the chef. But we'll make them tasty. I'll hand it over to Lynn.
And the occasional butterfly, too, I have to say. Hi, everyone. I'm Lynn Scheib. I'm the Partnerships Coordinator from the U.S. Department of State's Office of American Spaces. And I want to make a big shout out, as always, to our American Spaces teams that are participating around the world, but also to all the teams around the world, including in the U.S., that are participating. And Clever Like definitely has the best job that anyone could ever imagine.
I don't know. I think Lauren's is pretty cool too. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself, Lauren?
Sure. I'm Lauren Allognon. I'm a Data Analytics and Technology Manager at Tetra Tech, working in our international development services and focusing a lot on agriculture and food security around the world.
Awesome. Thank you. And we have Team KAIN over there.
Hi, I'm Kaylin. I'm Ivy. I'm Natalie. I'm Ava.
Awesome. Good to have you all here. And what's the name of the school that you go to?
Cannibal High School.
Hannibal High School. And what state is that in?
Missouri.
Missouri. Awesome. And what, just roughly, what grades are you? Are you high school?
Yes. The three of us in the front are freshmen, and
I'm a junior.
Okay, awesome. Good. Well, welcome. Always good to have students represented. And I know we'll have a lot of questions here throughout the day. So I'm going to go ahead. Lauren, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about what you do in your job? We've been talking about food security for a few weeks. Tell us on a day-to-day basis, what does someone do when that's their job?
I guess my career has been in agriculture and food security, mainly focusing on international agriculture, working with smallholder farmers, those who are kind of the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change in places like Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, South and Central America. And I have focused a lot on how climate change and extreme weather impact crop production, and also how we can kind of de-risk agriculture for these smallholder farmers. That starts from what to plant, when to plant it, and also how to get your crops out to market, and kind of the implications for farmers and kind of this changing world of extreme weather and variability. I've worked with, farmers kind of across the world to help them kind of understand climate change and how to adapt as well. So we deal with a lot of projects that focus on building food security and around climate change adaptation. So just trying to strengthen people's resilience to the impacts of climate change, especially in the context of agriculture where systems can be somewhat fragile.
Okay, awesome. I feel like the team at Cleverlike has done a fantastic job of folding all of those elements into Farmcraft. So we'll see that later as we dive into that. We just want to give a quick shout out. We already said hello to Team KAIN, but we did have some preseason challenges and Team KAIN participated and they definitely caught our eye. So we can't go any further without sharing the hype video that Team KAIN shared with us last week. So
get your air horns ready.
That's right.
Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, yes. We are now pumped and ready. Yes, absolutely.
That's great. That's the first time I noticed the dude with the hay on his head running across the screen. That was great. I'm like, I got it there. Yeah.
That was awesome. Well, that challenge was around preparing for success in the regular season, right? Thinking about what do you represent? What are the rules going to be for your team? I love that one of your rules was no unrighteous killing of the cows. That was pretty good fun. Yes, just fantastic. So good to have you all here. Eric, I'm going to let you take it away here.
All right, awesome. So we're going to jump into World. And of course, as we jump into World, we will, be asking questions of our guests. We will be exploring the connections between our Minecraft game and the Farmcraft world and reality, which, sometimes is very strictly connected and sometimes not so much. And of course, we don't have guests just on the call, but we've got guests in the world. So Claire, I know you're in here somewhere. You are over here staring at a plant.
Over there,
mesmerized.
It is a beautiful topiary.
It is a cool plant. All right.
Phenomenal.
Yes,
and our guests from Team KAIN actually are in our world here. They've visiting all the way from space, apparently. But yeah,
Yes.
not too bad.
Come a long way.
So let's jump in. Let's get this moving, and then we can start kind of making those connections. So tell you what, since we have some guests, Team KAIN, do you want to decide where it is we're going to feed today, and then maybe later where we're going to grow?
Sure. Thank you.
All right, what are we thinking?
To the island.
All right, we're going to feed the island.
So Lauren, we have 5 different biomes. So we're going to feed people in one place, and we're going to grow. It could be in the same place, or we could be growing from other locations.
Yeah, the idea is that you have to grow in a different biome. It's all about transportation and getting your crops to biome that you've selected. So you've got limited transportation options. You've got the challenges of growing in another biome, all as part of your overall score. The end goal of this is a big analytics thing. So that would actually be a fun thing to talk about. Is the end goal of this is to have the lowest price crops by the time you're done. There's no budget. Money counts upwards instead of a budget counting downwards. So your the math that goes into your price is all what's from your spending and your efforts.
Yeah. And we had some questions about that. We had some students who participated in Farmcraft Season 1 and Season 2, and they said, the money's going the wrong way. It's counting up. It's not counting down. And we're like, no, you have an unlimited budget. It's your job to keep those costs down this time.
Right.
We're going through interviewing each of the different, there's 4 members of the community that you talk to, and they have different needs and interests, and we're going to talk to them to understand what are their requirements. So this part of this is starting to understand, like, who is the market that you're making food for, who are those people, what are their wants and needs, what's important to them, and before we go set out to decide what to grow, we're taking those kinds of things into consideration.
Clever, like, it appears to me that you may be jumping straight to the end, because are you a chef today?
He's farm to table, so he's
Yes.
growing his own.
Yes,
his
I
own
come to the
product
farm.
here.
I inspect the crops to make sure they're grown properly before I buy them.
Awesome.
So I think our next stop is going to be like one of the most important ones to kind of start our conversation today, because we are headed to the lab and we're going to speak to our data scientist.
Okay.
And we've worked in a little bit of a narrative. Now, admittedly, this is a video game, and we wanted it to still feel like a video game. So we had to kind of gamify data analysis, which, if you told me that was going to be part of the gig, was, hey, can you turn data analysis into a really exciting, fun-filled game? I would have, maybe cried into a pillow for a little while. But no, we did. I think this turned out great. I love the game style. And yes, it's not maybe real-world data analysis, but it does take some critical thinking skills. So let's make some comparisons. So I guess the question would be at this point is, as we're going through this, we've got a game and we're going to talk to some of the scientists involved here to get some more information about each of our choices. But it's similar to, and you may have played a game like this, Lauren, Mastermind, where you have to kind of figure out the combination based on the different choices that you can make. I'm guessing that's not entirely how data analysis works.
It's like the Wordle for seed generation. Yeah.
The Wordle for seed generation is a good way to put it.
There's always some trial and error. So I think that, that part of this definitely is realistic of that.
That's fun. Yeah, when we first introduced the idea of genetic modification of crops, we talked about adapting them to the biome that they're growing in. So we talked about the insects, the soil, and things like that, and how crops could be adapted for their environment. This time, we're talking about ways that we could potentially adapt crops for the market that we're selling to, including customer, consumer preferences, as well as production output, food styles and presentation, all that stuff. So, and again, trying to get that right price. So you could see here, Eric is working
I'm working
independently. He doesn't need no
may
help.
or may not know that, how long this takes might have an impact.
Yeah.
Not bad so far. We've got some choices that are correct, but they're certainly not in the right combination.
Right. So he's trying to find the correct items. There's 6 choices for. There's different attributes, like quality attributes of the food, like what is its texture? Does it have? Is it seedless? Does it have antioxidants? Things like that are one of the attributes. And then we have like the type of fruit, or vegetable. What is the type of product that it is, and then also its taste profile. Like, is it bitter, sweet, spicy, savory? What is the preferred taste profile? And then the color. How does the color present? So what do we have here? What is the crop that the market has?
So our crop is an orange root fruit that is savory in flavor and loaded with antioxidants.
Wow, that sounds kind of like a sweet potato.
A little bit. It's pretty accurate, actually.
Awesome. So, Lauren, we're talking about these different aspects of the foods that we want to grow. How much of a role does that play in food security? Because being well fed isn't just having enough food, right? It's that it has the right mix of nutrients and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, food security, it's not just being able to go out and find whatever food you have. I mean, the US, we talk about food deserts where, people don't have access to like a supermarket. Maybe they have access to a 7-Eleven where they can buy chips or burgers, but things that aren't necessarily nutritious. And so there's kind of an accessibility issue, but then nutrition, and I guess that kind of plays into nutrition as well. And availability is also really important, right? So, this is kind of where climate change also plays kind of a hindrance in that, things that people used to grow aren't growing in the same way. So that's where some other techniques that, some nature-based solutions and things like regenerative agriculture come into play to kind of boost the ability of farmers to produce more kind of in the face of these other challenges.
Regenerative agriculture, please inform.
Need new buzzword.
Fun
Let's
buzzword detected. Please elaborate.
What is regenerative agriculture? So
regenerative agriculture really focuses on rebuilding soil health by putting nutrients back into the soil. So this could be in a number of different ways to kind of mimic nature's natural regeneration, right, of soil with more organic material, using fewer chemicals. This could include like cover cropping. So a lot of times after we plant a cash crop, when we harvest that cash crop, we let a field lie fallow. But instead of doing that, you could plant a cover crop to retain that soil and decrease the erosion that happens. This also includes like no-till farming, composting, using less pesticides, and then things like agroforestry where you integrate trees and shrubs into crops and animal systems. So it's all about making soil healthier and just also kind of building, again, that resilience to other challenges that climate change brings, like more erosion and things like that. So.
I think we're going to have Lauren make some of the decisions as we plan here.
So, what is Team KAIN? What's your go-to when it comes? We do have a no-tilling or machine tilling or manual tilling. What is your go-to when it comes to the tilling question?
Usually on the first time, we do manual till.
Okay, that sounds fun.
We could do some manual tilling,
or would you like to pick one of the others?
Sounds fine. Manual till sounds good.
Right.
Go for it.
Okay.
This is a chance to for everyone to participate. Everyone gets a nice diamond gardening hoe and can quickly, right? This is about farming, right? We don't mess around.
Gosh.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, see, communication is important.
Yes.
Right? Having a good plan, communicating with your teammates.
Nope, we're gonna do this Claire
We-
style. Run around in
Horses
chaos.
chaos.
I am not running
Some
around in
fast
chaos.
No,
tilling.
you're doing a good job
I
today.
feel hurt and also seen at the same time.
There you go, Claire. Go ahead.
Come on, I'm doing okay. I'm way
All right,
better
we're
than
good. We're
last
good.
week,
Talk to the
you gotta say.
NPC. Nice.
Are we? All right.
All right.
Check our soil.
All right, let's check our soil health. That's pretty good.
749.
749 out of 1,000. That's pretty good.
All right. Nice job. And so if we manually till, that's better for the soil than if we use a machine.
Well, I mean, you're still tilling the soil, and we've learned that tilling does release some gases into the environment that could be a problem. So there is a little bit of a environmental impact, but there's since you're doing the labor manually, there's not as much of a cost impact. However, there is an impact, and you'll see when we start the game how much of an impact.
I feel like the words facultative and anaerobes are here any second now.
So let's get started with the next step. What's our next step?
We have to plant our orange, antioxidant-rich, savory root fruit.
Can't wait to have some of that
Oh.
baked.
All right. I think I talked to the farmer before I gave you a chance to do so, Eric. So
All right,
do you
so
want me to
that's
read
not a
off?
problem.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, I can
You
pull
can
it away.
see the same one.
So here's the trick, right? This adds to we can fertilize. It adds 200 to the soil. Obviously, adding certain fertilizers things can have environmental impacts, and of course, we don't want that value to go too high either. We don't want to over fertilize. So we do a little math in our heads, and we know that we would end up with 900 and change here, since we were where were we 740 something.
Yeah.
So it would be 940 something, which doesn't put us over. So we ask ourselves, is it worth the additional impact? Not to mention, is it worth the cost, or can we kind of use our money more wisely and get more for our money if we fertilize later on? So all of those are decisions we have to make. So what do we think? Fertilize yes or fertilize no at this point? Our soil health is pretty good.
Lauren, what would you choose?
I think considering your soil health is pretty good, I would say don't fertilize.
Okay, we're going to say
Okay.
no. And now we need to plant our seeds. We can do this via machine. And we actually learned from one of our recent streams that this is absolutely a thing. And why, as we see farms kind of evolve, we're seeing really straight lines of crops organized, because a lot of them are machine seeded at this point. We can hire labor, or we can do it ourselves.
Or
Team
am I-
KAIN, what do we think? Why don't we go to
Team
Team
KAIN.
KAIN? What do we think?
All
What do we
right.
think?
We normally do manual.
We like the manual around here. We like to
Yeah,
work.
that's good.
Hard
You know,
workers.
you put in
All right,
the
we're
hard
gonna,
work.
We're going to work,
pays
but
off.
that also means that I need to drop some seeds for all of you to pick up. So I'm just going to kind of throw these in a loop around me and let you come get them.
All right.
I'm wasting no time whatsoever.
No siree.
I think I stole one of your rows, though.
Kind of got in my way, but you know, it's all right.
We're alternating. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh.
We can finish that one up. See, like then you can finish mine up.
All right. Uh-oh. Team KAIN, can you grab mine? Oh, how do I share my seeds? I forget.
You can press Q and you can drop them one at a time, or you can actually press Control, hold Control and Q, and drop all of them in a stack.
All of them? Oh, okay.
That's a lot of seeds. There you go.
That is a lot of seeds. Go, Team KAIN.
Team KAIN.
Let's go.
Oh, look at that
Dun,
quality
dun, dun.
seed.
I feel like we need some of the Team KAIN music going in the background right now.
That's right. We have a machine and we can plant them this straight by hand.
Right?
Exactly.
You're amazing.
Is it better to manually place your seeds, or is it faster just to do it machine-wise?
It's faster. However, the consequence of manual seeding, we'll see in a second here. I want you to look at the time
Look at the
the
time.
timer. Do you see how the timer is a minus?
Yeah.
So the time it takes you to till and seed slows down or extends the length of your season, basically. So that means you're exposed to weeds and caterpillars longer. So if you're really good at managing the weeds and the caterpillars, then manual is a good option, because you can save the money and you could manage the threats.
So I'm going to make a recommendation, by the way. We have not used any technology. I mean, we've used obviously some technology to get our seeds and to analyze our data. But here on the farm, we have not used any of our machines. We haven't pulled up drones. We didn't machine till. We didn't machine seed. Should we see how long we can keep that going? Because I think that's going to lead us into the challenge we're going to announce today.
Oh, okay. Well, that was lucky. So,
Right.
Lauren, you can see what's happening in the game here. Now, all of a sudden, we have these crops growing, but we have butterflies, which seem cute until they also come with caterpillars that eat the crops up. Right. And our soil, I imagine our soil is going to be getting dry here pretty soon.
Yeah, I'm going to.
So-
water and soil are getting low.
Yeah. So how does this mimic what happens in real life when a farmer is out taking care of their crops? What can they do? We just talked about trying to stay environmentally aware. How does a farmer make decisions like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming trickier and trickier with extreme weather events like drought and flooding and heat waves, because all of those impact like when you would apply pesticides, and then also like the prevalence of pests really increases when crops are stressed. So if you, right here, I can see that you guys have an irrigated plot of land, right? But many farmers rely on rains. So if the rain, and then, oh, is it raining?
Yeah, it is.
There you go.
Wow.
Sometimes it rains, right on cue.
Irrigated, and then it rained.
Yeah, so those are, and that happens as well, right? And so
Right.
a lot of this is all about, like, de-risking is all about being able to plan ahead. And obviously, climate change is making that a little bit more difficult, especially for rain-fed agriculture. But planning ahead, knowing that likely you're going to have some pests. So, taking some measures to kind of get rid of the pests before they happen, that is probably your best option here. And so, yeah, I guess a lot of it depends on if you have a sprinkler system. Farming, large scale commercial farming in the United States and in Europe is much different than the small scale farming, in other parts of the world, which relies heavily on rain-fed agriculture. So when the rains,
challenge.
when the rains don't come in time,
Yeah.
and if you've already planted, if you know that your rains normally start in October, but now all of a sudden they come in September or they come in November, you have to try to plan around that. And people don't always have good visibility to the weather like we do here as well, right? We have the weather on our phones, we have forecasts, we have lots of things we can look to know when to plant and to kind of understand when we have to augment the rain, maybe with some irrigation if we can.
And we do have students who participate in Farmcraft from all over the world. And so I'm certain that some of those students are in those areas where they are relying on the rain. And do you know the percentages? How much of agriculture, how much is reliant on rain versus, we have all these advanced systems?
Well, if you're looking in places like Sub-Saharan Africa and maybe Southeast Asia, the majority, I don't know the exact percentage, here in the U.S., there's certainly kind of a combination, but a lot of people have kind of a backup irrigation system as well, right?
That makes sense. All right.
It's funny. Like, one of the things you can consider is playing around where you don't use the sprinklers and see how that goes, which would be interesting because obviously in the desert and cold biomes, the likelihood of rain is much lower. In the island biome, it's much higher. See, the mountain seems to have a decent percentage of rain, as would perhaps the temperate biome. But yeah, it's random. So part of it is simulating the real world in that maybe you'll have a great luck sometimes and maybe you won't.
Yeah.
So in this case, we are all out here in the field tackling these caterpillars manually on our own. In the real world in farming, how much of farming and the solutions that they have for pests or fertilizer, how much of it can be nature-based and how much of it are people relying on chemicals, and what are sort of the recommendations around that?
Yeah, the fewer chemicals, the better. But there are certainly some, pest outbreaks that you can't control. For example, in 2020, And I believe in 2021, there was a huge outbreak of locusts in East Africa that kind of migrated from Asia that just decimated entire crops and really has led to some food security or food insecurity really across a lot of regions. Combine that with severe drought over multiple seasons. Those large outbreaks that just destroy things you can't always plan for, and you can't always spray for. So again, a lot of it is like making your crops resilient in the first place, keeping your crops really healthy to avoid pests in the first place. But that's obviously not something that you can do all the time because that, insects and agriculture kind of go hand in hand.
Yes, they do.
They do. We try to,
especially in my backyard. They do.
Yeah, right. I mean,
I have a small yard. I can't imagine dealing with pests on the scale that farmers do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what inspired the caterpillars, was how our kale just started disappearing, and and everyone's like, oh, the pretty butterfly, and then you realize like that little devil is planting all of those little hungry caterpillars on your plants. And so that's one of the interesting things about managing. And also, like, the butterflies is a little hint in it. The butterflies is foreshadowing. So the number of butterflies you see is a factor determined based on how many caterpillars you're going to see in the season. So that's a correlated number. So if you don't see too many butterflies, then don't stress out about the caterpillars.
Yeah, and sometimes things I didn't even know were pests ended up being pests. We had a little backyard garden, and the pests that we had to deal with nonstop until we came up with some solutions were slugs.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not as adorable, I guess, a problem as butterflies,
right.
But
My daughter would argue otherwise.
I would, I do too. I actually kind of like them. Don't get me wrong. I love slugs and snails. I think they're wonderful, but it was not a problem we expected to have.
I'm curious if Team KAIN, if anyone on Team KAIN has tried to grow their own garden.
I work in the greenhouse we have.
You mean in the real world right now, not in Minecraft?
Yes. I work here at the greenhouse at our school. We have a large one, and it has had an outbreak of bugs recently. So I kind of learned about the whole how to deal with them from my teachers and everything.
Oh, nice. So you just punch them, right?
You just walk around, you just punch straight down. You try not to punch the plant at the same time.
The teacher's like, "What are you doing?" Like, "Don't worry, I got this."
I learned in Farmcraft.
Like,
That's right.
Have you seen me on TV? I've been on live streams. I know how to do this.
So to add on to that, we did have a question to ask. Actually, we have a few. And one that relates to this next upcoming part of choosing the transportation. How can you reduce greenhouse gas emissions when you get your produce to the market?
Yeah, this is one that we are all need to be acutely aware of, because our agriculture, not just in production, but the transportation contributes a lot to our greenhouse gas emissions. Agriculture is a huge emitter in a lot of different ways, and transportation is a huge culprit of that. So, renewable energy solutions are obviously kind of the ideal, but also, there's a lot of support of kind of the farm to table aspect of things. Like, we obviously here in the US get a lot of our produce out of season from places around the world, and that transportation cost is really high, and it often falls on the consumer, right? And so more localized farming is kind of the ideal for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Also thinking about packaging, processing. And a big one that we all need to think better about is food waste, right? Because food waste is a huge emitter of greenhouse gases, and also, just really terrible for the environment. And here, I think that 70%, over 50% of our food gets wasted. And so just being really conscious of those kind of trends is really important, because the transportation side of things is where, we all need to, we don't see it, right, as the consumer all the time, but it's where we need to be thinking a little bit better about where our food comes from, especially if, we're getting things out of season that have to come from a completely different, I guess in Minecraft or in Farmcraft, it would be like a completely different biome, right?
Right. And we had students track that, didn't we? In one of our preseason challenges, we said, what is, how much does this food cost in your local market or grocery store? And didn't we also track where it comes from?
We asked them if they could find the information on the label or anywhere else where it came from, what the country of origin was, to give us that information. And some of it traveled far. There was produce that traveled from Chile to Northern Africa. There was another one, I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head, but it caught me off guard just how far that produce was traveling without spoilage, or at least with minimal spoilage.
Yeah. So you also think about the refrigeration that had to take place. So that plays into the energy usage that had, that had to get it there.
Yep. Right. And speaking of which, we have to make a choice around that right now. And of course, it also, I guess, matters where you're shipping to and from, because not every means of transportation can get everywhere. And that's a factor here in the game.
You can't drive a truck to the island.
Right. We're going from a mountain biome to an island. So we cannot take the train, and we cannot take trucks. Of note, even though trucks may be involved, as we've learned, right? Sometimes there's multiple means of transportation. We've got to get it from the farm to the shipping distribution area or to the docks or wherever. But we're just choosing one. So we've got boat and airplane to choose from. One of them is definitely faster, but certainly more costly, and probably has a little bit of a larger climate impact as well in the real world. So,
yeah, and that's the trade-off. You have to decide: do you want to save money and potentially lose crops along the way, or deal with a transportation method that takes a long time to get there, but can ship a lot of things? Or do you want to ship things quickly, risk losing less crops but pay more money? So there's a lot of factors that you'll see at the end of the game that you could put into like a Google sheet or an Excel spreadsheet and start to look at all these decisions that we made. So I mean, it costs more to ship by plane, but it'll get there faster. It'll be better quality. The consumer will be happier.
Less spoilage along the way. Yeah. So, it doesn't over-ripen. And honestly, we used so little technology in our farming process that our money usage is still pretty low.
Yeah, we got some quality going here. What are we going to use?
What are we going to use?
All right.
Boats and planes. Those are our options here.
Boats or planes. Team KAIN, what do we want to do?
Money, but risk more loss? Or do we want to spend a lot of money and ensure it gets there as a quality product?
I think we should get there as a quality product, because that's the main thing that people wanted on the island, was that they didn't want it to be spoiled or spoil fast.
All right. So I think that means we're taking the airplane. So
I've been jumping up and down over here trying to put in my vote. So I'm glad you noticed. I'm like, over here. Perfect.
All right, we've got our choice. We know how to do this, right? Everyone here knows how to play this part?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to skip our tutorial and we're going to go right to packing.
It's cool because from our last live stream, we learned that if your containers are not packed to the fullest, then you're basically paying for that empty space. So this exercise is all about how efficiently can you pack your container so you could use the least amount of containers, which also lowers your price per item.
That's right. And you've gone from scrub to pro at this one, so
yeah,
It looks a bit like Tetris.
It does
a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's say some of the physics are a little different from Tetris, and some of the mechanics are a little different, and the goal is certainly different. But we're not going to pretend we didn't get inspiration somewhere.
Yes, exactly.
So what's your strategy, Team KAIN, when you play this game? Do you try to fill up a certain side or the middle, or what's your strat?
We usually just try our hardest. The game's kind of... I'm used to playing actual Tetris, so I go for like I leave one hole like really empty, waiting for a straight one, and then I
Oh,
never get
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I use having two spots.
Nice.
So yeah, there are some tricks, but one of the most important things to notice is if you look on the right-hand side and you've got the scoreboard there, you can see what every player has currently in their box. So I just messed mine up because I'm busy talking. And that doesn't delete from the total boxes at the top until their container has shipped. And why that's important is you want to add those numbers up in your head before you decide to order another container. And if you've got lots of players, you definitely want to communicate about it. So, for example, right now we can see there are 104 boxes to go. Yellow just ordered another container. I'm going to order another container. And based on the number that can fit, we probably are going to need one more after that.
Okay, so I could do one.
So
Or
go ahead
is
and do
Claire,
one.
Are you?
Or is
Yeah,
Claire
go
going to do
ahead.
one?
Okay.
You do one.
All right. By the way, I had full 42.
Of course you
Oh,
did.
Brag.
nice.
You know.
I think I
That's
was
because
missing
you're
like
not talking,
6.
sharing screen, and doing it at the same time. That's what's
Right?
happening there.
Exactly.
That's my copium for that. Is that I was busy explaining and showing the scoreboard. You know, I can't.
Right. Right.
Okay.
I do see the plane over there just waiting,
We did put the
ready for us.
the entities all in there so you can see them. We tried to make this entire thing feel like a board game. So if you look at it from the top, we're actually playing in the lid of the board game that you would like rest on the table. This activity happens like in the lid of the game. And the rest of the biomes and everything are kind of spread out on a game board to kind of simulate what it might be like if you were playing, in real life.
I love where I'm standing. I can see the cow peeking over the edge at me.
Yeah.
Okay, looks good.
And I don't know if people have figured out yet. I try not to say it, but there are some strategies where you actually don't have to pack the entire shape that's in front of you. Some of you may have noticed that.
So if you observe, you can see what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
Team
there.
KAIN, do you do any of that overlapping type of strategies?
Those boxes still require packing later on, but you don't have to pack them right away.
Oh man, another
Oh,
one. I'm
that one's
bragging.
full.
Oh, no, I
There
didn't
we
get to
go.
have it.
But 7
Nice
containers is
Packing
good. We kept our
complete.
numbers down. 7 containers is good.
work.
All
All
right.
right, let's see.
See how we
we
did.
do.
Let's see how our shipment went. Oh, severe weather, and some of
Oh,
our airplanes were not
no.
able to
Oh,
park soon
no.
enough. We lost some crop boxes due to spoilage. We need to take better care of our climate. So, we did take a lot of time. We did use a lot of fertilizer after the fact. So we may have had some impact there.
The climate score was 850, so 850.
Oh, that's like
out of
right on that
1,000,
borderline.
so
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there is. You do have to
How
kind
does
of.
it go with that, with climate and stuff? Like, how does climate change your impact on a farm?
Sounds like a Lynn.
Yep.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How will climate change impact on your farm?
Do you want me to
Yes, Lauren.
take
go
that
for it.
one? All right. I mean, I think we've already seen how a lot of the decisions that we made, we kind of in the back of our mind maybe thought about climate change. The biggest one, again, is, well, maybe not the biggest, but one of the biggest is, again, if your farm or your crops are rain fed or irrigated, and any kind of variability in both rainfall and temperature can really impact how much of your crop will actually produce, how much you'll be harvesting at the end of the season. This could require shifting in what type of produce you're planting. We're kind of seeing that around the world, that things that people used to plant are no longer viable because maybe the rainy season is shortening, or it's getting hotter. There are a lot of different ways that the climate is impacting crop production, and specifically like what we can plant and when we can plant it. Flooding is happening at a more frequent and extreme pace. And so I think, some of you live in California. Recent flooding has wiped out a lot of the strawberry, fields. And so our strawberries, if there are any, are either going to be really expensive or we won't have any. So you also think about, the people who work on the farms, and there's like that whole piece to this as well, that also ties into food security, right? The people who work on the farms, that's their income. And so if something comes and wipes out their whole farm, not everybody has, insurance, I guess access like we do kind of here in the US. And so there are a lot of ways that climate change can just kind of get the ball rolling, and then, it's kind of one hit after another for farmers. And so that the ability to adapt to climate change and understand, how it's manifesting in your area, because it manifests differently around the world, is really important.
Yeah, that's all good information. And you really do see on one hand, I am in California, and for years we've had drought. And so when it starts raining, everyone's so excited. And now it's been doing nothing but rain for months. And so now you start saying, wait, turn off the water because there's too much. And so either extreme is not good.
Absolutely. Yep. Too much of a good thing,
Right. So are we ready to submit, Eric?
We are ready. So if you look at my screen, actually, if you were watching as Lauren was really well answering that question, because I was not prepared for some of that. So I love learning stuff as we go. I was walking around speaking to all of the residents to see, if I met their expectations. It's a great way to get feedback. We dropped hints into there so that if you did something a little weird, if your climate score was off, or if you lost a lot of boxes in shipping, or if you took too long to analyze your data, those hints would be dropped in the feedback as you made your way around the community. But this is the submittable score, and we can always come back to the computer here that says submission score and check our scores. And this is the score you're going to submit. So when you do take your screenshot, this is what you want on the screen. And of course, right now I am using version 1.3. That is our most recent version. We had to do some updates. We know bugs are always an issue, not just on the farms, but in the games. And since, of course, we have our internal team that tests, but once you put it in the hands of thousands of people, they start to find other little issues. And we try to stay on top of those and make sure we make those updates to correct those problems as quickly as possible. So we're in 1.3. We screenshot that, and that's going to be our submittable score. And actually, our specific score is our unit price score, in which case this is 3,479. You can think about that however you want. This is an international. This is not a specific currency. So, in the US, we may say, okay, that's $3.47 or round it up to 48 cents. But if it was in Japan and yen, that would look very different. So we'll leave it just in this place value that we've got here as sort of a generic coins cost. But the idea is to get that number, the unit price score in yellow there, as low as possible. We did a pretty good job this round. Not too bad.
Team KAIN, how have you been doing as you play? How does our score today compare to what else you've done?
I think we did about the same thing that we did today. And our boxes were a little shooken up when we were on the plane, and we lost a few of those. So our expense went a little bit more high.
Got it.
The unit price and everything.
The thing I love is you can keep playing, right? You can try again and get a better score.
Always, always, always.
Yes.
And speaking of which, one of the most important things you can do when testing this is literally that, is to test it, is to try every various combination, experiment with it, but make sure you're trying to control certain variables to see if they make a difference. And that's exactly what we do with some of these preseason challenges, to kind of get your mind in the idea of, hey, what happens if we compare this playthrough to the next playthrough and all we change are these few things? What kind of impact does that have on the numbers that we see at the end of the game? And that actually brings
we're
us...
lucky. I was going to say, we're lucky in this game because we can play with it, and you're not dealing with actual crops and your income for the year. So this is a great way to learn about how different factors impact. And I'm sorry, Eric, I cut you off. I know you're heading
No, you're good. You're totally good. What I was going to say, and then of course my brain just stopped braining there for a second, is that brings us right into what our next season challenge is going to be. So we are ready to announce our regular season challenge. And of course, all of that can be found just like it always is right on the nasef.org/farmcraft website. But I've already got the challenge up, so I'll share my screen again. There we go. And here is our challenge 2. And by the way, some people didn't realize this last time. I want to make sure we clarify it. When you come into the flip to submit, if you're not sure what the whole dialogue for the challenge is, there's a little show more right here. And if you click that, it gives you all the information. So you're going to want to do that so you can see some of the question stems there for the challenge. So for this one, in the last challenge, you fed the island. We're going to do like a complete 180 and go from feeding the wettest biome we've got to the driest biome we've got. So this time you're going to be feeding the desert. But in our 2 playthroughs, rather than changing anything else, we want you to do basically what we did on the stream today, which is use the least amount of technology possible and then play through it again and maximize the use of technology. So use everything. Use the automatic or the machine tilling, use the machine planting, use drones nonstop. And see how all of those playthroughs affect your outcomes. Which one has a greater impact on climate? Which one had a greater impact on unit cost and why? So you're going to want to take a look and honestly do some real data analysis and look at the outcomes for those 2 playthroughs and see what kind of impact those choices had on what you did. And then, of course, let that guide your practice. Do we want to use a lot of technology? Do we want and minimize the time that we're farming? Do we want to use a minimal amount of technology and protect our climate? Do we want some variation or integration of both? Is something in between optimal? And these kind of playthroughs and this kind of testing is what's going to do that. So you will be submitting your video diary. And I want to clarify, especially since we did some updates to our world file since last time, and it was our first week that it was there. The 3 regular season challenges, while we do have a due date for them so that we can share on stream some of the really great ones that are fun to highlight, kind of like Team KAIN's hype video, which is amazing. We also allow you to submit these anytime before the end of the season. So you can submit all 3 regular season challenges anytime before the deadline of the entire season. But all 3 do need to be in for you to be eligible to win at the end of the season. So one was released last week, and that one is still available, and you can still enter that one, and you can still get that one done if you haven't already, or you are waiting for an update to the world file. And regular season 2 is challenge 2 is now live. Both of those are in the flip. Both of those can be found on the NASEF website, and we're ready to go. And in addition, of course, if we go back to the NASEF website, that is also where we submit our scores. So when submitting your scores, you want to make sure, of course, that you do a full sized screenshot. We talked about that. And that is what you're going to update and, of course, or upload rather to the scoreboard where you will, that's where your scores are going to be taken. So if I switch over again to the other screen, I've got too many screens and I'm just like turning into screens as we go.
You're juggling quite nicely. Good job.
I am trying my best here. We do have our
look
leaderboard.
At that. There are prizes. Sorry, read about the leaderboard first.
I like that every stream we ever do, Claire's like, prizes, there are prizes. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. You do want to submit score on leaderboard. And of course, that takes you to the submittable form. And I will always keep this updated. Right now, you can see that currently the submissions will be in version 1.3. That's been updated. But this is the form you'll fill out to submit your score. You're going to fill out your information about your team. You're going to mark which biome you fed. Today, we fed the desert biome. You're going to mark which one you farmed. We farmed in the mountain today. You're going to upload or put the number of your unit price. Ours was lower today than it was last time. It was 34. I don't even remember, but it was pretty good. Actually, I can go back to it. What was it? Let's see.
Was it?
It was 34.79.
Yeah.
34.79. Not bad. That's pretty solid.
Good job, team.
Oh, of course, I switched to the wrong one.
That's all right.
You said I was doing such a good job juggling. I was bound to mess it up sooner or later.
Did I jinx it? No,
you did. You did.
Going on there.
I blame you. So much going on. I think I'm in. What happened to it?
I'm
all right. You know what? You're gonna go ahead and find that. I'm gonna switch back to my camera. You can There it is. Look, of course, I can, you know what? I can just go right back to it right here. We can go right back to the
Okay.
board. No one has to know. And you can look at prizes again. Prizes.
Perfect.
Okay. So it was $34.79. That would go right here. And then, of course, we would upload our photo. And I did take a screenshot. I'm not going to upload it. We don't count. I don't count. I don't get to get prizes, Claire. It's so sad. I don't get any of the prizes.
I'm so sorry. And I talk about
I
them
don't
all the
get-
time, and then you don't get them.
Any of these cool prizes, you know?
Eric, are you switching back to, there we go. We see the.
Yeah. So, yep, this is where I would submit that. And I did have my score in here, 34.97. And, of course, now prizes. Claire, you want to talk about prizes?
I do want to talk about prizes. Well, because this is a student opportunity, and who can't use an Amazon card, right? We all could use something additional. So we do offer prizes. I also want to first mention that it is free to join Farmcraft. This is a fantastic education program, and we want to see educators taking advantage of it. Team KAIN, is this also fun? Do you enjoy yourselves in Farmcraft? Yes. All right. So this is a fun way to learn some pretty applicable facts, right, Lauren? Today we were talking through all kinds of things in the world that are what you do on a daily basis as an expert in this field of agriculture. So it's all free to join. And then on top of it, if you win, you get Amazon gift cards. So please make sure you join, submit all your scores. If you have any questions, let us know. We're here to help you out. info@nasef.org.
One more thing we should point out, Claire, because we're talking about making sure they get all their diaries in before the end of the regular season, all their diary entries, and there will be 3. That also includes a random drawing. So if you've got all 3 of your diary entries in, then you are entered automatically into the random drawing as well. And so there's some gift cards for our 2 random draw winners as well.
Right, because
So
we
it's
want to make
not
sure.
just about top scores.
Exactly. Somebody who's brand new and they're just figuring it out, like me, for example, would be a great person who would be so happy that there's a random draw opportunity as well. I'm not quite as good as Team KAIN yet.
No, you'll get there. You haven't made a hype video. That's why. Have you tried making a hype video, Claire?
All right.
I'm a librarian. I have a question for Team KAIN. I believe that there's a famous author who's from Hannibal, Missouri.
Do you know?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
It is.
Mark Twain.
Yay! Samuel
Wow.
Clemens.
Wow.
Missouri.
Oh, I love Mark Twain. That's good to know. Cool. Fun fact for the day. All right. I think we have hit all of our reminders. So you should know all the procedures, what to do, how to do it. You got to see us play through the world today. Got to learn a lot about food security and climate change. Lauren, we appreciate your being here and sharing your insights and your expertise. Team KAIN, thank you for joining us and for hyping us up. Not just today, but through the whole season. We appreciate it. Good luck to you and to everyone who is participating in Farmcraft. Our next stream is on April 6th, so make sure you tune in then. And we'll talk about regular season challenge 3, but I'm not going to jump ahead. Right now, we're focused on challenge 2. So
1 and 2, and again, one you can still enter 1. So if you didn't have a chance yet, make sure you get 1 in as well.
Absolutely. Perfect. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much.